The format of this dialogue is very informal. Both Anne and Dave have the opportunity to ask the Dalai Lama some questions, and we'll begin it with Dave Matthews. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't have faith that this microphone would work at such a small little thing, but it seems to be working. So I'll be quick introduction to tell you a little bit about myself and why I think I ended up playing music. But before that, I want to say how enormously grateful I am and what an enormous honor it is that you've come here, and I know to be with us and talk to our children about compassion when you must be in a lot of pain for your people, and just what enormous generosity, and thank you so much for being here to inspire us. I remember when I was a kid being transformed by music, the music that my parents would play, the recordings they would play, and I remember being transformed by the Beatles and the Jackson 5 and dancing by my fireplace, and by Beethoven when my mom would play it to wake us up in the morning. And I remember thinking, I remember watching when I watch my children listen to music and dance on the couch and run around, I think it reminds me of what I was like when I was a kid, and the excitement that they feel and how they sort of lose sense of the burdens of life when they listen to music. I feel the same way when I perform music. I feel sometimes as if I'm almost disappearing, and sometimes when I look at the audience, I feel a real connection when I watch people who seem also to be sort of taken away from their lives. And so my question is to Your Holiness is, how do you think that music applies to compassion, and can it be a form of compassion? I just want to know what your feelings are about music in terms of compassion.
The music is a sound. I think special. I think component of sounds.
Combination
of. Sound is not mental, sort of mental thing. So compassion is mental, sort of, say, mental state. I think music is, I think, part of human action. What do you think?
Well, I think
I don't know.
Well, thank you for
some kind of. I think mainly some kind of expression. I think what's the verbal action, and then also the instrument with human physical action. So now, as every human action carries some meaning or with certain motivation. So now here, with compassionate motivation and through music, certain message of love, compassion, forgiveness, honesty, these things. I think very, very, I think powerful to reach, I think, larger audience. As you mentioned, when people listen music and the performance side also, at that time, I think whole your sensorial way.
Yes.
Sensorial sort of mind, and mainly the main mind, all concentrate, focused. So therefore, like I think prayer, all those sort of same passage, but same passage without sort of tune. And with tune, sometimes make differences. So message of love, simply explanation, and message of love through music may be sometimes more stronger impact. So, and also painting, arts. I think all different sort of art, through artistic way, I think convey certain deeper of value. So therefore, certainly, whether you see the music itself, compassion or not, it is really, I think, very, very helpful. I think, very, I think a very effective sort of method to promote human value.
So from what you say, I'm getting this feeling that when we talk about compassion, a lot of us, you do it very effectively, but when we talk about compassion, it's something that we think about. So words, when we speak them to each other, we tend to take them and put them into a place in our heads, but there's a covert thing that happens when you play music. Maybe it's not that, but that it goes to the heart rather than into the head, and that the message is often relayed after that. You can love some music, but not know what the words are, or not mind what the words are. Just in the way you can look at a beautiful painting and be inspired by it and not know necessarily what the inspiration for the painting is. It has its own life, and so in that way, maybe music can help carry a message of love and a message of compassion. Maybe that's what I'm trying to get from you, but I think that's what you said.
영식으로 왔어. 영식으로 와서 해서나 단데 그러니까 나이잖아. 그런 거와도스 랭도스 랭조도스. 지단 당매바 이제 이제 디셰비나 고또 고에도 봤어. 셰그 돈데 제베나야고.
I don't know. I think we need more research work. Sound is directly connected with
sensory experience.
What is it?
Sensory experience.
Sensory experience. Painting also is a direct
to the senses.
So, at sensory level alone, no ability, good or bad, differentiate. So must related with the certain part of brain which is judge.
Evaluate.
However, for example, complete silent meditation or analytical meditation in complete silence, then the sensorial consciousness, or I don't know, sensorial experiences not utilized.
Yeah.
Now, same message, for example, same subject, compassion. Your main mind thinking that, on top of that, ear, sensorial experience also now join or enforcing. And similarly, now for example, a Buddhist drawing picture of Buddha or a Christian Jesus Christ, and particularly Mary carrying young Jesus. So these, on top of your main mental state, these sensorial experience also now joining. So that way, otherwise, you see, they just enjoy sensorial level without much thinking. I think less effective.
But it can be fun.
That's right. That's right. I think the real effect on life is deeper level of mental function or mental conviction. Sensorial experience. Yes, a moment sensorial sort of experience because of the going on, yes, certain sort of a strong experience.
So maybe there's an openness that can be created by music to allow a message.
A space that lets people have an openness to compassion.
I think in modern time, in any case, I think modern time, I think through different way, a message of love, compassion, and through different way.
Medium, long. Different medium.
Different medium. I think in modern time, I think very, very necessary, very helpful. So you can make a great contribution regarding promotion of human values.
Your Holiness, if I could ask a question as well. I find in my work as a reporter that we find so much suffering all over the world. In Africa, in Congo, in Darfur, in Kosovo, so many places. And you understand this idea of suffering. The question is, what can we do to grow our compassion within ourselves so that we can find a way of being able to face this suffering? I find that people have a hard time looking at the suffering of others. And I'm wishing that they would look so that they would care and do something about this suffering. So what is it that we must do to find the compassion within ourselves, to care about people we don't know, in places far away, who have customs and cultures we don't understand?
What is the main point? So no connection with media people. So what connection with media?
For people who are watching the news and people who are watching
media. Now, of course, the today's world, the information is extremely important. I think, like music also, what you call martial music, isn't it? Music, but you see, cultivate or increase hatred.
Oh yeah, it's I
so
thought
these, you see, they either you see use for positive purpose and certain sort of certain purpose, but essentially harmful.
Yeah, it's the same. I think. Sorry. Carry on.
So the media. Also is either way.
Yes.
Distorted information, mislead people, harmful, the correct information. I think objectively, correct information, that's I think very, very important.
Yes.
And let people judge. So now, regarding promotion of human value or promotion of compassion, media I always feel media, since the main method promoting inner value, such as compassion, I think there are two ways. I think through faith, try to increase compassion.
Religious faith.
Okay.
Through religious faith.
Through religious faith. Here, I don't know how much sort of rule the information. Of course, information about religion, God, these things, of course, very important. But then other way, cultivate and promote inner human values, such particularly compassion, through I usually call right view, the more holistic sort of perspective. Then you will know compassion is for one's own well-being, warm-heartedness is very helpful, and in order to build happy family, I think less divorce. Here also, the compassion really has that important role. Then happy human community, happy human society. Further, happy 6 billion happy human beings. And also further, the billions of sentient beings, other form of animal, in order to provide peace with these beings. So ultimately, our motivation, our intelligence alone, no guarantee whether going to help, whether going to be constructive, not very sure. So intelligence or knowledge must combine with sense of responsibility, sense of moral ethics, sense of concern, sense of caring of other. That must combine. So these through knowledge, isn't it? Through information. I think some people, I think, may develop stronger or deeper conviction after they listen. Compassionate mind is very good for health, isn't it?
Yes.
Like that. So therefore, media, I think, very, very important role, promotion of these values. So since you see the promotion, because one method of promoting compassion, not through faith, religious faith, but through understanding. So here information is extremely important.
So you're saying information is important for the development of compassion, and compassion is required to be happy.
Yes.
So here's a question. Many people have big difficulty in being compassionate toward their enemy.
Yes.
And you today are facing a difficulty because you are being criticized, and yet you must turn and be compassionate with those who are criticizing you. How can you, what is the way, if compassion is required for happiness, that we can be compassionate with those who hurt us, who make us feel bad, who make us feel criticized and small?
This morning, we already touched the compassion. Basically, any social animal, and particularly animal whose survival at the time, at the beginning of our life, you see, our survival entirely depend on others' care. Because of that reality, who created that? No answer. Of course, God created that way, if you believe God. Then more, I don't know, ordinary people, then don't care who creates these things. But now important is the reality, our survival. Now, for example, we human beings, our survival at the beginning of our life entirely depend on the care of other people, particularly our mother. So therefore, that's the physical, biological sort of reality. So since this physical need tremendous care from other, therefore in the emotional level, in the mental level, there is one particular element, I don't know, factor which brings together to bond. So now that is affection. Mother side, tremendous affection towards child, even animals. So mother side is willing to sacrifice their own life for the sake of the offspring. So the offspring side also is a tremendous sort of belief, faith. Just after born, the offspring or the young one, no idea who is that. But emotionally, it's totally relying. Then mother take care in the what we call lab. And particularly what do you call this is a small what is that?
Nipple.
Nipple. When you see that,
I didn't expect to say that word here.
Some are bigger, some are smaller.
Reach, you see, the offspring's mouth, tremendous sort of feeling of safe, peace, isn't it?
Yes.
Although no idea who is that person.
They figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah.
But by nature, nature, you see, that is the way of our life. So that kind of affection, mainly biological product. You two this morning session?
Yes.
Are you here or not?
Oh, not the session. No, No, I wasn't here for the session.
No.
I interviewed.
So I mentioned, of course, if some people I think who attended this morning, then you may feel boring because of repetition.
Repeat for those of us who weren't listening.
In order to sake of two person, new person, I don't want to boring rest of the people. So in any way, I think essence now. Essence is compassion or affection. There are two levels. One, mainly biological factor. That is, although seed of compassion, but limited. Because simply, you see, that come by nature to close feeling towards the basis which our life depend. And then similarly, when we face threat, anger. So more or less it's the same.
Same pattern now.
Same pattern. Now we have this marvelous human intelligence we have the immense sort of capacity to utilize knowledge, long-term consequences, benefit, and short-term. Biological reaction is short-term. Now, with help of intelligence, now long-term,
Consequences.
long-term consequences. So therefore, on the basis of the biological factor, the closeness feeling, sense of caring, now fuller knowledge, the real value for long-term interest. Then, with intellectual sort of realization, a fuller knowledge, really bring our perception, our concept. That concept transform or bring conviction. Through that way, we can change our attitude. Now here, compassion through training, compassion, that biased compassion, limited compassion, can be unbiased, infinite compassion. Now, biased compassion, biological factor mainly, that cannot go up to your enemy. But now, with help of intelligence, fuller knowledge, with help of that kind of knowledge or wisdom or intelligence, now we can extend our compassion towards our enemy. Now here, the enemy means mainly related with action, not being itself. So I think the definition of enemy mainly depend on their action, not being itself. Compassion mainly aiming being, not action. Two separate things.
I see.
So you consider someone who harming on you as enemy, recognize as enemy. So according to circumstances, in order to stop their harmful action, you can take appropriate counter sort of action in order to stop that, in order to protect yourself. Meantime, as a being, now different, not on action, but on being, still sentient being. If the troublemaker is a human being, still a human being, just like myself. And also, broadly speaking, part of the 6 billion human being. A member of human family. So recognize that, and individual human beings' future very much related with 6 billion human beings, big family, isn't it? So therefore, now for example, if you have one enemy and keep your compassion, then there is much chance one day that enemy become your best friend.
Your best friend.
Then you will really feel, oh, now my enemy turned my good friend. You really, I think, feel very happy. Satisfaction. So therefore, if you have some enemy, and try to become friend, I think that's worthwhile to try.
Yeah. You remind me of when I was a boy. I was a little boy, and I had my gang of boys that I was in high school with, and there was a gang of boys in another high school, and we'd always meet halfway, and then we'd get into it. Yeah, it was good stuff. And it was war. We knew that eventually we would be victorious. But as it turns out, all the guys that we are fighting, I'm all my very best friends now. So it just turned, in that war ended up really well. But it's because we started talking. That was the thing. We started talking, and then we figured out that we were more similar than we were different, that we were more like each other than we were different. And I think one of the problems with the way the world is running itself now, with our help, is that we very often refuse to talk to our enemies because they only understand violence, apparently. But I don't think that's true. How can you know what your enemy understands if you don't talk with them? And so I think one of the biggest problems we have is that we don't talk.
Right. I agree. So I think the only method, you see, transform our enemy become our friend is dialogue. Respect them, respect their interest, and through that way, without losing genuine sense of concern about them. Meantime, some disagreement, some argument, of course, possible. So I think that's the way where our compassion can extend towards our enemy. Now here, we really need very strong sort of determination or strong will. Try to increase our love and compassion, and with that, forgiveness, spirit of forgiveness. Forgiveness does not mean forget what happened. Remember what they've done. Yet, because of their wrongdoing, if you keep negative feeling towards them, that's the opposite of the forgiveness. Forgiveness means remember their misdeeds. Recognize. Yet, I have no ill feeling towards you. I still feel sense of concern of you. So that I think we human beings can do that. Other animals, very difficult.
Now, I understand that you watch Larry King every night. Is that right?
What's that?
CNN, Larry King.
Wow.
Wait a minute.
Not me.
No.
But actually, I always listen BBC radio broadcast.
Thank goodness.
That I always listen.
And you know, I do too. And what you're doing is you're always becoming aware of what's happening in the world.
That's right.
So you've made it a part of your life to be knowledgeable about what's happening in the world. The reality is that when we look at what's happening in the world, there is a lot of, throughout history, the most powerful, the most violent are often the ones who win. I don't mean in terms of spiritually. I mean in terms of land,
Yes.
in terms of...
Yes.
Okay, so you are talking about this important issue of compassion. And there are people who watch the news and watch what's happening in the world, and they feel as if it's just not going the way you're speaking. And they wonder, is it really possible that what you're saying is going to bring good? Because, for example, if I may, just speak about you speaking about compassion towards China, speaking about compassion towards the difficulties. And yet, there are many who feel hopeless about the future of Tibet. So help us understand how this will go. How can you see a future with such great hope? And I know this is personal because of what's happening today. And this is the challenge that you face.
Because lack of seriousness, how to develop genuine peace through inner peace. So people neglected about these inner values. Now I think, generally speaking, 18th century, 19th century, I think early part of 20th century, I think people always talk money, 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 economy, economy, economy. That's all. So simply, you see, pay full attention about external development, completely neglect about inner values. Perhaps in 1,000 years ago, or 1,000 years ago, when separate education institutions started in Europe, then moral ethics, inner values, these matters is taken care by church, and also family values, some extent. So now the religious influence in the society also little reduced, and the family values also go similar way. Then education, ancient time, okay. The human brain, only brain taken care by newly established education institution. Ethics side, the warm-heartedness side, taken care by church. Quite well balanced. Now this side, influence reduced. So the education institution alone now have both responsibility. But then I think in a modern education system, now here I think some confusion, some people, moral ethics must be based on religious faith. That creates difficulties.
That creates difficulties.
So there must be third way, of course, with religious faith, one very important sort of powerful method to promote deeper human values. But meantime, we must find another way. That means I usually describe secular way to promote ethics. There must be secular ethics. That means it's a common or ordinary people who have no religious faith, but meantime, very, very honest, compassionate person we can see. So they have the quality of secular ethics. So there must be method promote that through secular way. Now, fortunately, what is main subject?
You're doing well, though. We can drift.
Great.
We can drift.
Okay. So therefore, now later part of 20th century, I think among the scientists, among the social workers or people who connect to some society, concerned about society, more crimes, particularly among the younger sort of among the students, sometimes killing like that. And also, you see, they're seeing the trouble in the family, these things. Then more and more people now begin to look human emotions, human mental quality, not only just knowledge, but the deeper human values. Here, I think now some connection I want to share with you. Now here, in ancient time, society, Marxists would call classless society, no particular leader, all people, all family members work together, hunting together, or collect the fruit or roots, collect together. No sort of class, leader, or subject like that. No. Then eventually the concept of ruler, leader, eventually come. So at that time, mainly related with physical strength, like animal. More stronger body become the leader. I think that's why in the society, the male dominant concept where that kind of habit, I think happened. That I think the ancient, I think, thinking, stronger body, it worthy. In order to be leader, this body strength is very, very crucial. Now, eventually, that gone. Now, intelligence, knowledge, wisdom is more important than the physical strength. So, leadership, even if it's weak physical, can be leadership. And also, occasionally, female also become leadership. Now, intelligence now more important. Now, wait. Oh, and another sentence, then I think you should do more. Wait. Now, today, knowledge alone, no ability to solve all our problems. Knowledge must combine with warm-heartedness. So compassion become more important now. Even some politicians now in their word, in their language, word of compassion now occasionally come. In the past, I think early part of the 20th century, I think no politician talk about compassion. Now, occasionally happening, and non-violence. When you talk non-violence, compassion automatically involved. So now, I really feel time has come, we must emphasize more on compassion. Now, I think, no, wait. Still, wait. Now here, my point is, female, generally, of course, some female are exceptional. Generally, female biological factor, more sensitivity about other suffering. So there is biological factor now, I think, greater potential to develop compassion. Now, I think war heroes in the past, most of them male.
I'd agree with you there. Mostly fellas in war. Yeah.
Now I think it's a simple matter, such as butcher. I think most of the butcher are male. I don't think of female butcher. I think very few.
There's probably one here. There's probably one female butcher here saying, waving her maybe.
And hospital. Doctors, of course, a lot of males, more or less equal, but nurses, most cases, it's a female. So female, I think more fit, the compassionate work. Therefore, now, if you feel agree, then so that now time is come. Female role.
You're saying it's time?
Female role. I think. I think very important. I think in order to bring more peaceful, more compassionate, I think female, particularly mother, I think have very, very important role. This is my feeling.
My mother. My mother. Seriously. I've always thought that my mother should be the queen of the world, but she's the queen of my world. But I don't think she wants the job. And if you'd met her, if you meet her, you'd probably agree. I do agree that I think that the world needs more female energy in it, because I can speak for myself. Sometimes I can't contain my anger, and then my wife looks at me like I'm crazy. We can be in the heat of it, and I get so angry, and I want to break something, and it comes out of me, and it feels very much like a man. And then my wife just says, "Calm down, calm down," and she makes sense out of everything. So I think it could help. It could help the world if there was a little less of my machismo and a little more of my wife's sense of proportion. Yes, I think you're right. I'm just reflecting.
I think Anne will have to.
My own sort of, I think, experience, I really feel that today I have certain amount of sort of compassion or sense of concern of other. Of course, later part, training, as I mentioned earlier, the training, these also, I think, important factor. But the main factor, I feel, my mother, very, very kind mother. So I always feel the today's my certain amount of compassion actually come from my mother's affection. So real teacher of my compassion is not a religious teacher, but that my mother is, I think, ultimately real teacher. So therefore, mothers really, I think, very, very important role regarding promotion of human compassion. Human compassion is the basis of inner peace. Through inner peace, real world peace can achieve.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
The Dalai Lama.
I think part of human action. What do you think?
Well, I think...
I don't know. I don't know.
Thank you for...
some kind of, I think mainly some kind of, I think, what's the verbal action. And then also the instrument with human physical action. So now, as every human action carries some meaning or with certain motivation. So now here, with compassionate motivation and through music, certain message of love, compassion, forgiveness, honesty, these things. I think very, very...
The format of this dialogue is very informal. Both Anne and Dave have the opportunity to ask the Dalai Lama some questions, and we'll begin it with Dave Matthews. Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't have faith that this microphone would work. It's such a small little thing, but it seems to be working. So I'll be quick introduction to tell you a little bit about myself and why I think I ended up playing music. But before that, I want to say how enormously grateful I am and what an enormous honor it is that you've come here, and I know to be with us and talk to our children about compassion when you must be in a lot of pain for your people, and just what enormous generosity, and thank you so much for being here. to inspire us. I remember when I was a kid being transformed to your holiness is how do you think that music applies to compassion, and can it be a form of compassion? I just want to know what your feelings are about music in terms of compassion.
The music is a sound. I think special, component of sounds.
Combination.
Sound is not mental, sort of mental thing. So compassion is mental, sort of what's it? Mental state. I think music is
formed by music, the music that my parents would play, the recordings they would play, and I remember being transformed by the Beatles and the Jackson 5 and dancing by my fireplace, and by Beethoven when my mom would play it to wake us up in the morning. And I remember thinking, I remember watching when I watch my children listen to music and dance on the couch and run around, I think it reminds me of what I was like when I was a kid, and the excitement that they feel and how they sort of lose sense of the burdens of life when they listen to music. I feel the same way when I perform music. I feel sometimes as if I'm almost disappearing, and sometimes when I look at the audience, I feel a real connection when I watch people who seem also to be sort of taken away from their lives. And so my question is,
I think powerful to reach, I think, larger audience. As you mentioned, when people listen music, and the performance side also, at that time, I think whole your sensorial way, sensorial sort of mind, and mainly the main mind, all concentrate, focused. So therefore, like I think prayer, all those sort of same passage, but same passage without sort of tune, and with tune sometimes make differences. So message of love, simply explaining